Coming to graphical representation of continuous series, a continuous series can be presented in the form of a histogram or a frequency curve in which we draw two axes, namely y-axis and x-axis on a graph paper. X-axis shows class intervals, whereas y-axis shows corresponding frequency. Before drawing, we first need to divide x and y axis according to given data. So here we have to start from 0 and we have to go till 20 with a gap of 5. So starting with 0, first let's divide class intervals on x axis. Now, lowest frequency is 2 and highest frequency is 13 here. So if I take a gap of 2 each, I can divide my graph on y-axis as follows: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Now let's start drawing. For the first interval 0 to 5, frequency is 10. So I will make my first bar like this. For the second interval 5 to 10, my frequency is 13. So my graph bar will lie somewhere here. It's 5 for next class interval, thereafter 2. This is my histogram. Now by joining midpoint of each histogram, I get frequency curve. The last point should be closed at the midpoint of the next class interval, and here in this case it should be taken to the other quadrant as we have started from 0. This is how we draw a histogram and a frequency curve. However, if instead of exclusive series and inclusive series is given to you, then you first need to convert it to an exclusive series by adding 0.5 to the upper limit and subtracting 0.5 from the lower limit. After changing this series, you draw histogram and frequency curve in the same manner. Coming to ogive. I hope you remember we discussed about less than and more than series. So similarly, less than and more than series can be represented in the form of a graphical presentation which is known as ogive. In order to draw the ogive, first we need to convert a normal continuous series to a less than series. Let's recall that while constructing the less than series, we considered upper class limits. So here, less than class interval will be less than 5, less than 10, less than 15, and less than 20. Again, please recall that we added frequencies from top to bottom in order to get less than frequency. So less than 5 will be 10, then less than 10 will be 23, less than 15 will be 28, and less than 20 will be 30. Now we have to draw this data on the graph. Again, let's recall that we take frequencies on y-axis and we take class intervals on x-axis. So demarking x-axis from 0, 5, 10, 15 and 20. Now demarking my y-axis, I will take gap of 5 now since I have to plot till 30. So it will be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 and 30. So corresponding to 5, the frequency is 10. I will mark it here. Corresponding to 10, frequency is 23. Corresponding to 15, the frequency is 28. 8. Corresponding to 20, frequency is 30. So by joining these points, I get a less than ogive. Similarly, we can draw a more than ogive. Let's recall while constructing the more than series, we took lower class limits. So it will be more than 0, more than 5, more than 10, and more than 15. Now, while constructing the more than series, we add frequencies from bottom to top. So more than 15 will be 2, more than 10 will be 7, more than 5 will be 20, and more than 0 will be 30. Again, dividing my graph paper in x and y axis and making class intervals on y axis. Let's first make class intervals 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. Now, again dividing y-axis with a gap of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So more than 0 is 30, more than 5 is 20, more than 10 is 7, more than 15 is 2. By joining these points, I get a more than frequency curve. Just notice that a more than frequency curves comes from top to bottom, and a less than frequency curve goes from bottom to top. Now, since we have studied how to draw histogram, frequency curve and frequency polygon, now let's look at a finer version of these graphs. You have to keep in mind that once you draw any frequency curve or histogram, both x as well as y axis should be properly labeled and marked. A proper scale should be written along with the graph. It can be seen that a frequency polygon has also been drawn here along with the histogram. Don't forget to join frequency polygon with ends. When we draw a frequency polygon, it should be drawn as straight line with the help of our scale. Whereas a frequency curve can be drawn as a smooth curve without using the scale. As you can see that here as well, both x and y axes are properly marked and scale is duly mentioned. This is example of a less than ogive which we have already studied. Here also both x and y axes are duly marked and scale is also mentioned. So is the case with more than ogive. So keep these things in mind while drawing histogram, frequency curve, frequency polygon or ogive so as to present your data in an attractive manner.